Welcome everyone to the free MS Office Masterclass. Today is the first day. We're going to begin with MS Word. So the MS Office suite, as we call it, is a very powerful bundle of softwares you can use, of which you have the MS Word, which is the word processing software. You have Microsoft Excel, and then also PowerPoint, Microsoft Access, and a lot more. But the most popular ones, and then what you're going to cover in this course, is Microsoft Word, Excel, and then PowerPoint. So just as we said, you're going to look at, so the masterclass is MS Office Essentials Masterclass. So just as the 80-20 rule says, 80% of the time you're going to only use 20% of what you learn, right? So it means that you don't have to know everything about any software you use. You just have to know the essentials, the core fundamentals of that particular software or that particular skill, and then you'll be good to use it 80% of the time. So right, let's dive right in. So I have my Microsoft Word opened. I'm using Word 2016. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you can just go online and then search for word.new, and then you can use the online version of Microsoft Word. So right here, when you open, you're going to see that this is the interface you are seeing right here. So here you have the recent panel, which shows the Word documents you've used, the ones you've typed just recently. So you click here. Mostly I'm going to start with a blank document, or let's say you want to continue on a document you are working on, you can just continue. So you click to start a blank document, and then that's it. So when you open the blank document, let's look at the most essential parts of the software. So right here we have this part which we call the title bar. The title bar has the title of your document. So right here you can see document 1, which is the default name Microsoft Word will give your document. So right in, we are going to save our file, right? So before that, you can look here. We have the ribbons or tabs, but the right word in the Microsoft Word is ribbons. So you have the file, home, insert, draw, design, layout. So every ribbon has a bunch of functionalities. So when you click on insert, you're going to see a lot of functionalities. When you click on draw, different things, design, layout, and a lot more. So everything, almost about 50% of the time, or even more, you're going to be using the stuff in the home tab or the home ribbon, right? Most of the time I'm going to use the stuff in the home ribbon. So let's go in. So we have this part, it's also called the quick access toolbar. So the quick access toolbar is where you store functionalities you use frequently, so that you can just see them and then use them very quickly without having to struggle. So it's just like maybe a software you use very frequently, and then you pin on your taskbar so that when you're looking for it, you won't struggle. Yeah, so that's exactly what the quick access toolbar does. Then down here we have the status bar. So this the status bar tells us the status of our document, right? So the status of our document, when you look here, we have one page, so the number of pages, the word count, and then you can also have zoom over here. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, like that. So that's it. So we've checked the parts of the software. So we're going to save our file. So right here, you go to file, then you go to save as. So there are two different things. So save as is used to save the document for the first time. So that's why you give the document a name, the location you want to save it, and then you use save when you've already saved the document for the first time. So it has a name and a location. So but you made changes to the document, so you just use save to save the updates you've made, right? So because it's the first time, I'm going to use save as. So we choose the location. Let's choose desktop, and then we are going to give it let's give it a name, MS Word Essentials. So let's give it this name, and then let's save it. So that's very nice. So right here, the document has been saved as a Word document, or with a docs extension. So when you actually check the document, you realize that it's an editable Word document. If I minimize my screen here, you can see that this is MS Word Essential. So this is an editable Word document. So let's say we don't want to be an editable Word document. We want it to be, let's say, a PDF. So what you can do over there is to go to File, use Export. So export as PDF here, and then let's say you want to use the same name. Let's say MS Word Essentials. Yep. So let's clear the extension. So remove that .docs. So we save it as a PDF, and then we click on publish. And then you realize that now we have a PDF document that cannot be edited, right? So right here you can check and you see that it is now a PDF. So you can also use save as. So you can go to save as, and as you are saving the document, after giving it a name, you can change the file type to PDF, and then when you save it will be saved as a PDF rather than a Word document. So that's how you save as a PDF. Okay, so now, as they say, you can't actually learn anything without getting your hands dirty, right? So this is a document I've already prepared, and then we are going to use this document to learn the basic things we are supposed to be learning, right? So the first thing I want you to know is two different concepts that you're supposed to keep in mind. So the first one is editing. So editing in word processing means correcting mistakes in a document, right? Correcting mistakes in a document. So mistakes like grammatical errors, duplications, typographical errors, and then all other errors that are found in your document, when you correct them, it's known as editing. Then also we have formatting. Formatting means changing the appearance of your document, enhancing the appearance of the document. So when you do anything to your document that changes the appearance, right, it makes it beautiful, it makes it look better, that is called formatting. So that's the difference between editing and formatting. Some people get really confused between the two, but I think I've made it very clear. So we're going to look at some basic formattings we can do. So in order to format anything in Microsoft Word, the first thing to do is to select the particular thing that you want to format, right? So let's say we want to format this part. So first is to highlight. How do you highlight? So you put the insertion point. So the insertion point is this black thing that keeps blinking up and down. It's known as the insertion point, right? So you can put your insertion point here. You left click, and then you drag along to where you want to select to. Then you highlight. or simply you can put the insertion point at where you want to begin highlighting. Then you press shift, then you click where you want the highlight to end, and then you realize it's select. So this is very useful when you want to select a lot of text. So let's say you want to start highlighting from this point, you put the insertion point here, and let's say you want to end here, so you hold shift and then you left click this part, and you realize it highlights everything there. So basic formatting, so you have bold, italic, underline, and then font color, font size, and the font type or the actual font. So you can change the color of your font. So let's say you want to make so let's select this point. So let's say this is going to be our header, so we want to make it bold. So you go to font here, and then you click on bold. It becomes boldened, as you can see. And then so let's say this is going to be our header, so it should stand out, it should be bigger. So we go to font size here, and then we enlarge it. So let's say 20, right? Okay, let's separate it from this. Okay, so let's say that is our header, right? So actually this is a dummy text, so there's not going to actually be a header, right? So we can now select it, and then maybe add an underline here, and then let's change the color. So you can go to font color here and maybe change the color to something nice over here. Okay, so I think this is beautiful. So you can also use italic. So let's say we want to highlight this point here, we want to make it stand out, so we can maybe use italic here, so it looks more different, so that when the user reads, they can actually see that, oh, this is something different, we want them to note, right? So those are the basic editings you're going to formattings you're going to be doing. So I've showed you bold, italic, underline, and then changing the font color. So let's actually change the font for this. So the first thing to do is to highlight, as I've already said. So let's go to font here. Let's change the font to maybe Times New Romans. Yeah, so we've changed the font. You can see it stands a little out. So now I think our heading is still not very beautiful. So what we can do to it now is to change the alignment, right? So when you look at this section, which is the paragraph, we have alignment. We have the align left, which is the default, align center, and align right. So wherever the text is aligned to, that is the point the text starts from. So align left means the text starts from the left to the right, right? So if you use align right, you realize that the text starts from the right to the left. So let's use align right over here. So you realize that if I'm supposed to start typing, you see it starts from the right to the left, which you may not actually need to use in English. So I talked about the quick access toolbar. So I want to return back to where I was. So you can use the undo to run back to the quick access toolbar and click undo to get back to where I was. So let's undo all these and then get back to where I was. So the shortcut for undo is Ctrl+Z, which is going to be very helpful. So just in case you are editing your document and then you delete something you were not supposed to delete, that's not the end of the world. You can use the undo to just get back to where you were, and then everything becomes nice. So now we are going to align our text to the center. So align center here. You can see the shortcut is over there, Ctrl+E. It's going to help you very much because you may be needing the shortcuts. So you press this, and then after clicking there, you can see that the text is now aligned to the center. So it means the text actually, if I'm supposed to type, is going to start from the center, then spread to the other sides. So basically, that's what text alignment does. So as I said, these are the basic formatting you are going to be needing in most of your documents. So the next thing I'm going to look at is changing the line height. So the line height means the space in between each line. So this is a line, this part is also a line, right? So the space in between those lines. So let's say we want to increase the space in between the lines. What we are going to do is select it first, select everything here. So as I said, in order to perform any kind of formatting, the first thing to do is to highlight or select the text. So we highlight it, so we go to the paragraph section, and then you choose this here, line and paragraph spacing. So when you click here, you can actually increase the line spacing. So you realize that as you increase it, the line becomes more spaced out. So for whatever reason you need this for, you can use it like that. So I'm going to just keep it at 1.0 as it is. So basically, these are the very basic formatting styles you're going to be needing in MS Word. These are the very basic day-to-day formattings you're going to be needing every day. Now, the next thing you're going to be talking about is bulleting, right? Or adding bullets to your text. So bulletin are used when you want to give us a list, right? And you want it to be very visually appealing to the reader. So it could be any kind of list. So right here, you can just move out to the paragraph section, and you can see this numbering. You can see bullets, right? So you can select the type of bullet you want. Let's say this bullet. So after choosing the bulletin you want, you can start typing. So let's say item 1, and then when you press enter, it automatically creates the next bullet. So let's say item 2, then maybe item 3, and then so on. So the advantage of using this instead of typing manually is that you can just click here and edit all the bullets together. You can click and drag to increase the indentation. You can click and drag to decrease the indentation as you want. You can also change the design of the bullet if you want. You can just change it to maybe the check mark, or maybe this. Yeah, all of them is very good. So you can also add sub bulletin. So let's say there are other lists under item 1, right? You want to add other lists under item 1. So what we do is that after pressing enter, you press tab to create more indentation, and you realize that now the bullet changed. So you can now start typing your sub items, maybe sub item 1, sub item 2, and then so on. So just like we did to the first one, you can just click on one of the bullets and change it. So let's change it to the dot to make it more visually appealing. So maybe you can change the outer one to numbering. So you can click on the numbering and then choose the kind of numbering you want, maybe 1, 2, 3, or you can even use the alphabet A, B, C, just as you want to number it, and then you use it. So basically, that is the essentials of bulletin you're supposed to know. So in MS Word, whenever you want to present a list or you want to use bullet points, this is how it is done. Now the next thing we are going to be looking at is the insert ribbon. So just as I said, you don't have to know everything. You just have to know the 20%. You are going to use that 20%, 80% of the time. So we look at the insert ribbon. So you're going to look at, first of all, how to insert a table, right? So you go to the insert tab and you're going to see table over here. So you're going to look at tables, then you're going to look at charts, then you're going to look at equations and then symbols, right? So you click on table, then if it's a simple table, you just select the number of rows. So let's say a table with 5 rows and then maybe 3 columns. So 1, 2, 3 columns, and then you left click, and right here you see you've inserted the table very nicely. So you can just come here. Let's say the table is small, you can just drag here to increase the size of the table. And then just in case you want to insert another row in the table, you can just bring here and you see the plus sign over here. You click on the plus sign and then a new row has been inserted, and then you see a new row will be inserted over there for you, and that is very useful. So let's create a simple table. Let's say day of the week. So let's say we are creating a timetable. Let's say first lesson, maybe second lesson. So now we can just say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, right? So we can type something, maybe geography, physics, maybe biology, maybe what else? Math, chemistry, maybe ICT, economics, maybe business management, maybe psychology, maybe politics, whatever you want to do. So we have a small table here. So what happens is that just in case you want to select everything in the table, one of the things you can do is to come here and click on this sign over here, and you realize that everything in the table will be selected. So right now, let's align everything to the center. So you come to home, you choose align center, right? Align center, or better still, so you can select the whole table like this, and then you can use Ctrl+E to center everything inside the table. Why is it not so entering? Okay. Yep. Ctrl+E. Select everything in the table and then yes, recenter it. So now you can select the entire table, and then we come to table design over here, and we can change how the table looks like. So mostly you won't want to just put this old table here. So we can change the look of the table. I love this look, so I think this is very nice here. Yeah, so you see now we change the design of the table, and the table is looking very nice, very awesome. I think you also like it. So basically that's almost everything you're going to be using in table insertion. So the next thing we're going to look at is inserting shapes. So we're going to look at inserting a shape. So just like that, you go to the insert ribbon because you're going to insert something. Then you come to shapes. You select the shape you want to insert. So I like this smiley face here. So let's just insert the smiley face over here. So you realize that the smiley face is actually colored. So you can edit it by going to the shape fill. So the fill is basically the color that is taking on the white space inside the shape. So you can change it to something else like this. But mostly I love to keep it at no fill so that it takes the color of the background. And then we can actually change the outline of the fill to something else. So let's change it to this. And then basically that's it. So let's insert other shapes. So let's insert this arrow. So now let's draw the arrow here. So let's say we are doing something for our kids. So let's change the outline to something beautiful. Maybe something for the kids like this. So we are going to label the parts over here. Can change the shape outline. So now let's say you want to add the names of the part, right? So now you're going to need something we call a text box. So you go back to the insert, then you insert a text box, right? So most of the times the only text box you use is going to be this, most other times. So that's a simple text box, you just select it. So let's drag it here. So let's select everything in there. So this is going to be the eyes, right? So you realize that the text box has a border and everything. So you can just edit it and then change the outline to no outline. And then let's resize it a bit to take up only the space it uses. And then it has a fill, so let's put it to no fill so that yes, we can actually work with it very much better. So we have this one over here. So let's just copy this and let's paste it over here. So we can rotate the bar like this up here. And let's change the text to mouth. Right. I think there's a mistake. Okay. Let's move it a little bit upwards. Okay. Yes, so this is the mouth. Let's bring it a little bit closer to the arrow. Yep, so and then there we go. We've been able to label the part. So basically that's how we're going to insert a shape. And then yes, so that's all about shape insertion. So the next thing I'm going to look at is inserting a chart. I'm going to look at a bar chart and then a pie chart, how you're going to insert all those stuff. So let's move on to the next one. So off we go, how to insert a bar chart, right? So you move on to insert over here. So you move on to insert over here. Then you go to chart. Then you choose the chart you want. So if you want your chart to be in columns, you select column. Now you choose a style. So basically I'm going to choose something like this. I like something like this. Then I press OK. So it's going to ask you for you to fill these things. So let's say, so you have category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, right? So this is basically, so let's say we are talking about just one thing. You can just clear all these things to make it one. So let's say you're talking about sales, right? Maybe sales in every month. So let's convert these to months. So let's have January, February, March, April. Yeah, so we want to just compare what happened in all these months. So let's say the sales here was 500, the sales here was 100, the sales here was 300, and maybe let's say 420. Yes, so basically after that you can close it, and you can see that you have a nice chart that you can use over here. So you can also customize your charts like this. Maybe you can add the title of the axis, right? So you can select this axis, and let's say let's change it to months. Then let's change this axis to maybe sales made. Yeah, so we have a nice chart displaying the months and then the sales made. So we have a very nice chart like this that we can also present in our document. So let's look at how to also insert a pie chart. So a pie chart is also a chart. So we insert, go to chart, and then we choose pie, right? So you can choose any one of these you want. Basically, I'm going to stick with this and click OK. So you basically have sales here. You can just change the title here. So this is going to be so let's say this is going to be the month. So let's say we have maybe January. Let's change this to January. Then February. Then March. Then April. So let's use the same thing. 500, 100, 300, 420. And then here we have a nice pie chart. So you can actually press this one and you can add the data labels, right? So, and also you can also edit the data labels here. And you can actually change the style. So let's say you want this here, and then this becomes what you get. So basically that's how you're going to insert a pie chart inside your document. And then so we have looked at bar chart, pie chart. You can actually insert other types of charts in your document, but basically most of the time these are what you're going to be using: the bar chart and then the pie chart. But Word can do more than just pie chart and then the bar charts. So let's continue with our lesson. The next thing I'm going to look at is the page layout. So moving on, page layout talks about how the page is structured, how your page is literally structured. That's how your page layout does. So basically, if you want to do something like, so let's go to the layout tab. So when you go to layout, you can see things like margin, orientation, size, columns. So you can actually change the orientation of your page from portrait to landscape. So just in case you'll be printing in landscape, you can edit in landscape so that you actually know where you can put your everything so that it will become easier. You can change the size of the sheet. So let's say you're going to be printing on A3 sheet, then you have to be editing in A3, right? Yes, so this is actually an A3 sheet in landscape mode. So let's say you're going to be printing in A3, you're supposed to be editing in A3 so that you can see what it will actually look like when it is printed. So let's change the size back to what it is, and let's change the orientation to portrait. Yes, so now it looks just as it was before. So when you look at your page, you realize that there's some space over here and there's another space over here where there is nothing. You cannot actually type in that space. So those spaces are called margin. So just in case those spaces are too big, you can change it here. You can go to margin and set the margin to narrow. So you realize that now the space has become very small. But I think I'll leave it here at normal, and then you see the space has gone back to be increasing. Then one thing I'd like to also show you in page layout is mostly you'd like to show your page in columns, right? So you can actually select the parts you want to be in columns. Then you come here in the layout ribbon, you can see columns over here. So you click on columns, and then right now it is 1, so you can change it to 2, and you realize that your page is now in columns. So literally, maybe you can also add more by going to more columns. You can make it, you can change everything here, and mostly you like to put a line in between your columns so that they will be actually distinguished. So when you check the line, it is going to make it very beautiful and then distinguished from the others. So basically, that is almost everything you're going to be using with layout. Not everything, but just as I said, you don't have to know everything. Just know the essentials that you're going to be using much, and then it's going to help you very much. So next, I'm going to be looking at inserting mathematical symbols and special characters. So we're going to look at checking, inserting mathematical symbols and special characters. So you go to insert. So let's say you want to use a special character like let's say you want to type the CD. You see, we have currencies like the dollar right on your keyboard, but you don't have the CD and then all other symbols. So you can just insert them. I see people typing something like this: GHS, GHC. Some people even do something like this, and then it's not right. Actually, you can insert the actual symbol inside MS Word. So you go to the insert ribbon, then you go to this part here where the section called symbols. Then you choose symbol, then more symbols, right? So when you look at currency symbols, you can actually see that the CD is part of the symbol. So you can just select this one, and then you can see that's already been inserted inside my text. So let's say you're going to be using it a lot of times. You can't be coming here up and down. So the best way to do it is to assign a shortcut key. So you can just press shortcut key. I already have a shortcut key assigned, which is Alt plus C. So you can type a new shortcut key you want to give it, and then you press assign, and then after you close it. So because I have assigned Alt plus C, anytime I'm typing, I can just type this Alt plus C and then the symbol just shows up. We have a lot more symbols. Let's say you're typing in P or any other language where you need other symbols. So there's this symbol that is mostly used in P. That's the air symbol. You can look through here and then you're going to find, I think I've jumped. Okay. Where's that symbol? I think it's in a Latin, basic Latin. Let's look for that symbol. Okay, I found it. So this is the symbol, right? So just as I said, you can assign a shortcut key to it. So I already have a shortcut key, so which is Alt plus 3. That's my shortcut key. You can also assign a special shortcut key. Press assign and to be assigned. So when you insert, you can insert this here. Then you see you have this over here very nicely. So when you're typing in Tree or any other language where you're going to be needing these special symbols, there are a lot of symbols over here. So any of them you'll be using very frequently, you can just assign a shortcut key to it on your keyboard, so that anytime you press those shortcut keys, you're going to have those symbols pop up. A lot of symbols, you can just look at every one of them. So whenever you need it, you can use it as you want. So fast forward, let's look at inserting mathematical equations. So you go to insert, you go to symbols, and you have equation over here, right? So when you click on equation, you see the drop down gives you some, already made equations, but you can just click insert new equation, or you can just click on equation directly and you have this here. You realize that when you go to insert, you click on equation, you realize that there is a new pop-up window with a lot of symbols you're going to be using. So you can use the fraction. So let's say I want to use a fraction. I can just select the fraction and I can type, let's say 2/7. So this is a fraction, very beautifully. But let's say you're going to be using it frequently. So what you do is that you go to insert, you click on equation again. So what you do is that you can just right click on what you'll be using and you add it to the quick access toolbar. So right now I have it already added to the quick access toolbar. So you can just look through here. Let's say you're going to be using the radicals, the limit. You can just right click and then you add it to the quick access toolbar. And then so that anytime you need it, you just click on the quick access toolbar and then you can just use it very quickly over there. So there are a lot. You can use the integrals, you can use the script. It has a lot of things. So the superscript, the subscript, I think this is subscript, superscript. You can use both at the same time, and a lot. So this is a trigonometric functions. You can use sine, cos, tan, cosec, whatever. You can just, so I think I've pinned it here in the quick access toolbar, so I can just use it. So let's say I want to use a sine function. I can just click this, choose sine. Maybe I can just say sine x, right? And then I have sine x typed right here. So that's how you use the mathematical symbols. So fast forward, we are going to look at two more things. So we're going to look at page numbering and then creating a table of content. So table of content is one of the most important things you'll be using if you'll be actually writing a lot of stuff. Table of content will be very important in a report, and then also page numbering is very important. So in page numbering, you can go to layout. You can go to insert, page number, but maybe I like bottom of page, but I can put it on the top of page. So bottom of page, and I like it at the bottom right corner. So I can just click it, and you can see that I now have my page numbers inserted. So I have page 2 here, I have page 1. You don't have to go around doing this manually. You can use Word to do it. Yeah, you can use Microsoft Word to do everything. You can go here, and then maybe you want it at the top of your page, you can just put it on top rather, and you now realize that you now have page numbers also on the top, which I don't like. So I just press Ctrl+Z, and I have my page numbers at the bottom of each page. So now we're going to look at inserting the table of content. That is the last thing we are going to look at in this short masterclass. So inserting a table of content, you're going to need what we call headings, right? Headings. So basically, let's say this is going to be our number 1 heading. So every main heading is known as heading 1. So when you highlight this and you go to the home ribbon and you look at styles, you're going to see heading 1 over here. So this is going to be the main heading. So we select heading 1. We can format it later. Let's say this is a subheading. Let's make it heading 2. So heading 2 means subheading, right? So heading 2 means it is a direct subheading of the heading 1. I hope you get it. So if you make this heading 3, it means that heading 3 is also a direct subheading of heading 2. So that is the hierarchy. You can add heading 4. So that's the hierarchy your document should follow if you want Word to generate the table of contents. So let's select everything here. Let's make it heading 2. Let's also make this heading 2, and maybe let's make this heading 3. Forgive me for what. Yep. So now we can go to the first page here, put our insertion point here, and we're going to insert a blank page. So you go to insert and you can say pages. You can insert a blank page. So right here you can see on the first here we have a blank page. So you click on the blank page, then you go to the references ribbon. So in the references ribbon, you can see table of content over here. So when you click on the drop down, there are some table of contents you can choose from. Mostly you're going to be choosing one of these 2. So I like to choose the second one. So when you click on the second one, you realize that Word automatically generates a table of content for you. So you realize that if you had 15 or 20 pages, Word is going to do everything for you. So this is what I was talking about. So this is the measure heading 1, can you see? And then this heading 2 is a subheading here. Heading 3 is a subheading of heading 2. And then you have another heading 2, heading 2, heading 3. So you can see the hierarchy of the headings being used in the table of contents. So basically, people, as I was saying, this is the 20% of Microsoft Word that you're going to be using 80% of the time. If you learn this very well and you keep all the tricks in your mind, you're going to be doing very well with MS Word. And then all the other features can be learned later. So we talked about formatting, we talked about editing, we talked about bold, italic, underline, we talked about text alignment, we talked about page layout, table of content, we talked about inserting a table, a shape, a text box, inserting a chart, and then everything. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, give the video a thumbs up, and then make sure that you turn on the notification bell, and then you can get any other video that we upload. Thank you very much for watching the video to the end. See you next time. Bye bye.